Hey everybody, welcome back to my channel. So it's been well over 2 years now since I've actually posted a video. So if anybody's wondering why, it's because I'm still active duty military and I had to do a year in Korea. And then when I came back, we had to move to a different state. So it's actually taken me a while to obviously find a new house, and then I had to get the shop built and get everything put together so I could start doing these videos again. But right now I'm back. So I'm going to start making more videos. And the first one I'm going to do is I've got a bunch of electronic scrap here, and we're going to rip all this apart and see what we can't get out of them. Big shout out to my wife's Aunt Gail and Uncle Tom. They actually gave me 6 old desktop towers, which these should have a pretty good yield in them. They should have good CPUs and good RAM sticks in them. So thank you very much, Aunt Gail and Uncle Tom. I really appreciate it. Also, I was given a flat screen TV. You can't see it right now. It's quite a big one by a coworker. So thank you, Jordan Stewart. I appreciate that too. I'll put it on the table so you can see it whenever I'm ripping it apart later. I also got some little things like this. I'm not even really sure what this is, but I don't even know if there's gold in it, but I'm going to rip it apart and find out. I've got a laptop. There should be something in here. And here's an old router. Again, I'm not sure if there's any gold, but I'm going to rip it apart and see. So I've got a brand new shop and a laboratory. I've put in a lot of work in this thing. I'm pretty proud of it. So I'm going to give you guys a tour of the shop and the laboratory before we actually get started ripping all this apart. All right. All right, this is my new woodworking shop that I got. Put a loft in. I love this metal building that I got. All right, I'm going to take you on to the laboratory. All right, we got kind of just a storage rack here. Keep our pool supplies, and it's where I got some of my other scrap. Got a bunch of scrap RAM there, a bunch of old motherboards, a whole lot of CPUs I got that I accumulated while I was in Korea. All right, tub of silver. And this is just the entire shop. I got a new fume hood over there. And I think I'm all set up and ready to go to start doing this again. I got a much better ventilation system than I had last time. I can actually change the direction of the flow whenever I go to melt the metal right here to my fume hood. All right, so I'm gonna get started tearing these computers apart. Okay, so this is gonna take me a while to rip all this stuff open, maybe even a day or two. But I'm just gonna show you a couple of them here, and just to see exactly what we got inside. The tower should all be pretty much the same. The TV will be totally different. And this little stuff, I'm not really sure. I'm gonna have to figure it out as I go. But so really what I'm going to do is just take every screw that I see out. I'm certainly not a professional at ripping these apart. All right. See that motherboard in there? That's definitely going to have some gold, maybe even a little palladium. But underneath here, that's where the CPU is going to be. This big fan here. Also, we got our RAM sticks. See if I can't get them out of there. This is another thing we're looking for. So the main thing here is these fingers, but all these little black chips are also going to have gold in them. Main thing I'm after is a CPU. Just got to get this fan off. Here's the power supply. All right, we got the latching done. Not quite what I was expecting, but we'll make it work. All right, I'm also going to get this motherboard out of here too. All right, we got some more gold fingers. Okay, now we got the motherboard out. All right, so these motherboards, so they also have chips, gold-plated pins. The only problem with these is there's a ton of steel all over it. You can see here. So this will not be processed in this video. I'm gonna have to do an entirely different technique with these. So I'm gonna put this away and store it in my bin. We'll get ready to process on another day. All right, you can see we pretty much got it gutted. The hard drive is still in there. The only thing really that I find valuable in the hard drives are the magnets. But it does have a disc that contains a just minute amount of platinum. But I'm not going to bother with that. I actually have a whole box of those discs that I haven't done yet, and I'm not even sure if I'm going to do it. I might just sell those. So I'm just going to leave that in there. The only other thing that really we got is these wires. I'm just going to cut just strictly for their copper. There we have it. All right, we got our second computer opened up. It's about the same here. Just trying to get that CPU and them RAM sticks. There we go, nice little stick there. Now we got our CPU. All them gold plating on there. Okay, so one of the things that I did forget about the hard drives, this one had two of them, but it does actually have this little board that's got some fingers on it. So I am actually going to go back and get the other hard drive out of the other one. While I use the effort to get them out, I might as well go ahead and pull the magnets out of them too. All right, so I've already ripped apart one hard drive. I'm just going to show you what you get out of them. It's a lot of effort. These things are very shiny, very pretty, but they contain very little amount of platinum. Really not even worth going for it. But it does have two very powerful neodymium magnets in it. These are stuck. I'll probably have to get a screwdriver to get them apart. So also the board, obviously, which is what I'm going for with the gold pins. The cool thing about these, and all the RAM have it too. I don't know if you can see these little capacitors on there, like right here. They all actually contain palladium as well. So that's a different video for a different time. But for right now, I'm going to just show you how I rip these apart. So you got to get this special kind of tool specifically for hard drives. And sometimes they're hard to get the correct size. All right. So here's our board from our hard drive. So really and truly, I could just stop right there. But since I'm already here, I'll just show you how to rip these open too. So the same thing, should take the same tool. You get all the ones that you can see. thing with these two is there's always one secret screw in here that's always covered. If you look for this little kind of round part, that's usually where it's at. So you just got to try to find it in the middle there. Otherwise, you're going to be prying your heart out trying to get this. So I think I found it. There we go. All right, it's loose and out. And that's it. Here's your two magnets. And you got to take these screws out to get these plates off. Well, all right, so this one only had one. The last one had three. All right, you can just go in and get your magnet out. You can see these are very powerful magnets. So as you can see, it's just microscopic amount of platinum. And I guess just unless you like magnets, it's really not worth going into the drive, but I will get all the boards off of them. All right, we got two computers down. All right, I'm going to move on to my big screen TV here. It's a big 50-inch TV. So what I'm looking for here on the motherboard, there should be a long strip with fingers all over them. So that's what I'm going to be trying to see if I can get out right now. Not sure why I didn't think of this in the first place. I think that's all of them. All right, now the fun part. There's always one more. Oh, I guess I got them all. All right, see we got a motherboard here, another board here. All right, I don't know if you can see, but there's a strip down here that I got to get to. It's got a lot of gold fingers on them. I definitely want to avoid is breaking that screen. It's going to make a huge mess, and pretty sure that stuff's bad for you under there. All right. Again, this will just go in the motherboard pile. I'm not sure if there's anything there. All right, just got to remember how to get to these. I might try to trying to break this plastic without breaking that glass. Not sure if you can see it, but there's a strip that goes almost the entire length down here, all with gold fingers on it, so that's what I'm after. All right, starting to come out. All right, here's one strip. See, it's got gold fingers. All right, there's the other one. Cool. That's pretty much all that the TV's got. So I'm not going to mess with it anymore. I'm not going to try to go into here. There's really nothing other than stuff for the screen, and I don't want to be messing with that. Okay, I got kind of a late start yesterday, so I finished off all the computers, and then I just went inside. So I'm going to finish all the little stuff today, starting with this laptop, and let's get to it. So this laptop was already kind of busted, but as you see right here, it's got a strip similar to what was in the TV in the part of the monitor here. So that's cool. A lot of stuff on it. All right, next we're going to go into the actual computer part. Let's get rid of this. Well, it looks like that's for the hard drive. Yep. All right, that wasn't pretty, but we got it. All right, here we go. Here's one of our RAM sticks. Getting a lot of RAM out of these things. That's good. Here's another one. And it looks like this might be the CPU. That's a pretty good chunk of copper here. All right. There's our CPU. Got a bunch of gold-plated pins on it. All right, I'm just going to add this to the motherboard pile. All right. See, there's more than one way to do this. The fingers from the hard drive. All right, everything else here is, I don't really want anything from the hard drive or the battery or this thing. There's really not enough copper to deal with. Unless I can break it off. Yeah, there we go. Okay, it doesn't look like much. I'm going to pull that board out though and just see. At first glance, I don't really see any gold. There could be some in this chip here. So I'm just going to go ahead and throw this in the motherboard pile. But yeah, for this thing, I think it's a bust. Okay, here's what we got from the rest of those small items. As you can see, I don't see many fingers. However, all these little chips in here, these are all going to have gold. So pretty much all of them has it. Like this is a good one. Even the little stuff has these chips. There's no fingers or CPUs or anything like that, but they all got these chips. So they're all going to have gold. So these are all just going to go into the motherboard pile. Here's my stack of motherboards from the computers. And here's everything that I got. So the real good things here from those big towers are the RAM. These are some of the best RAM here that you can get. So we got our CPUs here too. So what we're going to concentrate on in this video is I'm going to clean up these RAM sticks here, get just the gold, and we're going to do these RAM sticks separately. All these chips on here, I'm just going to throw into my bin of RAM because they're going to have to be processed in a different way. So it would be kind of a waste of acid to do just this pile. So the way I'm going to do this is I'm going to clean up all the fingers, weigh it, throw it in with some of my other RAM sticks that I have, get a % of the weight, and then whenever I'm done, I'll be able to tell you how much gold actually came from just this pile. But I don't want to do just this separately because this honestly is going to be such a small amount that it wouldn't be worth the acid. So I'm just going to do it with some of my other stuff, get a percent, and that way I can know how much gold actually came from this pile. So once I get it cleaned up, I'll show you what we're going to be doing. Okay, here's our pile of cleaned up scrap from all that e-waste. Again, this is just the fingers. There is more gold in these with those chips and motherboards as well. Mostly the chips on the motherboards. I decided to go ahead and throw all my hard drive boards in with the motherboards. They all have this plastic piece on them that essentially I'm going to have to rip all the pins out anyway. So I'm just going to process these whenever I do my motherboards. So I'm just going to stick with all the fingers, the RAM and the CPUs, and the TV strips, and all the fingers that I could cut off. So let's go get a weight on this, and then we'll start our process. So this is going to be the scrap I'm going to be doing it with. Again, I'm going to take the weight of this and get a percentage of how much gold ends up. That'll tell us how much gold we actually got from our e-waste here. All right, let's get started. All right, let's go ahead and get a weight on this. All right, tear that out here. It's like 112.04 grams. All right, so let's get a total here. All right, 845.38 grams. All right, so from that, we'll get the percentage. Okay, now to get our percentage of what this is going to be, so we're going to come to our calculator here. All right, we're going to go 112.04, which was the weight of our e-scrap that we got. All right, we're going to divide it by the total. Let's see if I can find the divide. Divided by the total amount, 845.39 equals 0.1325. Now what we do here, let's multiply that by 100. So that's going to be our percent. Our percent of e-scrap is going to be 13.25. So whatever we get from this, 13.25 will have came from our e-scrap fingers that we got. All right, I'm here at my new and improved fume hood now. I'm actually pretty excited to use this. This is my first time ever using my new fume hood. So I got a lot better ventilation system. I can show you up here. So I have the power to swap flows, and it goes directly out my window. So when it comes time to melt, I can get ventilation over at my melt station over there. Okay, so what we're going to go ahead and do is pour these in. You can see I got quite a bit. All right, we're going to cover it with distilled water. Oop, guess I better take the cap off. All right, now the goal here is to dissolve the base metals and to release all these gold fingers from the sticks. So most of the time I use the hydrochloric acid and hydrogen peroxide method of doing this. However, so when I did move, I brought half a bottle of nitric acid over with me. Now, nitric acid will lose power over time. It will not be as strong. And from what I understand, it can actually dilute all the way. So I don't know if this nitric acid that I have here, I have new ones, but I do want to see if there's any life left in the one I brought. Because as you can see, it was basically almost a full bottle. So nitric acid is very expensive, so I don't want to waste it. So what I'm going to try to do is I'm going to try to see if I can dissolve the base metals here with nitric acid. If it has any power left in it, it should be a lot faster than the hydrochloric acid and the hydrogen peroxide method. All right, so I'm going to go ahead and get started. All right, let's get our fume hood going. All right, still got some smoke coming out of here. It's a good sign. Start off with about 300 milliliters. All right, let's turn on the heat. Let's hope we get a reaction. Okay, it's been about 5 minutes, and unfortunately, I'm getting nothing. I don't know if you can see some very minor bubbling, not even a color change. So unfortunately, I have to say, I think my old nitric is done. I think it's just become diluted. It's over 2 years old. So nitric acid typically doesn't last that long. So what I'm going to go ahead and do is I got a brand new bottle. We're just going to go ahead and use this. All right, I'm going to start off with a little bit less. As you see, I got it pretty full. There is some bubbling going on, but I would have a pretty good reaction at this point. We'll go about 150 milliliters. Last thing I want is for this to run away on me. All right, actually, I'm just going to give it about half of that, just to make sure that old nitric isn't going to kick in and run off on me. Okay, as you can see, it's been about probably not even 5 minutes with the new nitric acid. We're already getting a reaction going. Color's changing. We're getting the red fumes. So this honestly shouldn't take all that long. Already starting to get gold flakes floating around in there. Okay, this is only about 10 minutes into it. Just that little bit of nitric I put in is really kicking off. We got some thick red smoke. Very blue color now. And gold flakes are just going everywhere. Okay, it's been about 30 minutes now. The reaction's still going strong. What I'm going to do is go ahead and come in here and give it a little stir. All right, probably going to need to give it a little bit more nitric just to get it all back going again. All right, we're just going to give it a splash. Probably not even 100 milligrams. Probably about 50 milligrams there. Now, when it's really hot like this is when it tends to want to try to run away on you. All right, turn the heat up just a bit and just let it keep going. All right, guys, as you can see, the reaction has started to slow down a bit. Not quite as much fumes coming out of there. All right, so what I'm gonna do is I believe I'm gonna give it a good stir, and I'm probably just gonna let it sit overnight. I'm gonna turn the heat off and just let it sit in here overnight and let the nitric do its work. You see these foils are just falling right off now. It might actually even be done. Just to be sure, I'll let it go overnight. Come back tomorrow, all the foil should be completely off. All right, gonna go ahead and turn off the heat. All right, we'll be back tomorrow. Okay, it's the next day now. All right, just gonna give this a stir. Just want to show you. It looks like most of these have dislodged off of their sticks. Looking pretty good. Still some, but it looks like you just got to kind of knock them off. All right, so what I'm gonna start doing now is I'm gonna do a filtration, and then we'll probably take this outside. We're gonna have to go through each stick, make sure we got them. Pretty sure I got the majority of the base metals though. All right, I'm just gonna take a giant coffee filter, put it in my big funnel here. Look at that, looking pretty nice. All right, we're gonna let this filter out, and then we're gonna take this outside. I'm gonna put it in a bucket with a strainer. I'm gonna hit it with a water hose. Try to see if I can knock all these foils off. Okay, while I wait on that other stuff to filter, I'm gonna go ahead and take what I got in my beaker and get it into my bucket. So what I want is I want all the gold flakes to sift through this guy and all end up in the bucket. All right, so now begins the process of I try to go through each stick just to make sure all the gold flakes are knocked off of them. I'm not sure if you're able to see, but even ones that are stuck, when you hit it with the hose, they knock right off. So that's good. That'll make this a lot easier. That's what we're looking for. All right, it's taking a little bit to filter, so we're just going to start picking them off the top here. All right, we got our gold foils. You can see them all down there. Now during the filtering process, so So I noticed there was some gold flakes that made its way past the filter. Not sure if you can see it. You see a lot of grass, I know, but there's some flakes down there. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to get those out too. All right, so this is a new funnel I have. So I actually at the moment don't have anything that fits it as far as a filter paper. I'm just going to use a regular old coffee filter again. Hopefully it gets them all this time. All right, see how much was left behind? All right, so also as we come over here, we're going to get all of our foils into a filter. Pretty good little pile of gold flakes down there. Okay, I still got things filtering. You see here, we got us a ton of gold flakes. There shouldn't be any base metals in here. There's a lot of junk, just stuff from the boards and sticks and everything. That's okay, but we'll get it filtered out once we do our aqua regia. We still got our other stuff filtering at the moment. Not sure if that was enough to make all this trouble going back for it, but we did. We'll go ahead and just add it in with everything else once it's done. Okay, this stuff's pretty much done filtering. While we wait on this to get done, I'm going to go ahead and transfer our filter. Still got a little bit of liquid in there, but that's all right. Again, a couple gold flakes made it out into the filter. I think that was a little bit my fault. So I'm going to go ahead and see if I can get them to go down in there. Okay, we got our foils in the beaker. Time to hit it with some aqua regia. All right, we're going to start off here with about, let's say about 500 milliliters of hydrochloric acid. Go ahead and turn it on the heat. All right, and then I'm going to slowly add in some nitric. So I'd say that was probably about, I'd say 50 milliliters, something like that. You can see it's already starting to turn gold. And we'll be putting these gold flakes into solution. Give it a quick stir. All right, just wait for the reaction. Okay, you see we're getting a very rigorous reaction right now. Might need to turn it down. It's starting to kind of scare me a little. Definitely don't want to run away reaction here. Might use a little bit too much nitric. You see it's coming right back. I'm going to turn the heat off. Just got to keep an eye on it. Got a pretty gold color though, so I'm pretty sure we got all of our base metals out of there. All right, I think we got it under control. I still see a few flakes floating around in there, so I'm just going to let it boil for a little while longer. Okay, so definitely think I'm done here. All I see is a bunch of junk floating around in there. All right, so I got my setup ready to go. Turn it all the way off the heat, which it already is. I was not producing any more red fumes, so I think we are good. All right, I got my filter paper and my filter. All right, this is very hot, so I'm gonna get my big gloves. That is filtering out beautifully. All right. Oh, look what a pretty gold color we got. All right, the filtering is done. We're gonna go ahead and take it off now. Ooh, got a good suction on that one. All right, so let's go ahead and get this off of here. You can see, look at all that junk came out of it to a nice clear gold color. So I think we got a pretty good deal going on here. All right, so clearly I used too much nitric acid on that one. So it's probably going to take a little bit more sodium metabisulfite to get it to drop. All right, just going to transfer it over here. All right. Just in case. All right. Here we go. Sodium metabisulfite. I'm going to go ahead and lower this a bit. Still very hot. Should start seeing it turn sort of a blackish gray. That's when we know we should have enough. Well, spilt it all over the place. That's all right. We'll get it cleaned up. Usually when you start getting that white fizz, that's when you know you've got enough in there. Do just a little bit more just to make sure. Oh. Okay, that timer you just heard was meaning I need to go get ready for work. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to let this sit basically until I get off work tonight, and then all the gold should be precipitated out. And we'll go ahead and get that filtered out and melted down when I get back. All right, guys, I'm back. All right, you can see everything settled to the bottom really nice. It always looks like a lot more than it is. All right, well, what we're going to do now, I'm going to do a stannous chloride test. Make sure we got everything out of solution. That's going to be a negative reaction. There's nothing there. All right. Now all we got left to do is pour this out, filter this up, melt it down. I'm going to be starting a brand new stock pot here. All right, for the rest of it here, just going to take our filter paper, give it a good fold. All right, this could take a little bit. All right, here's our firing station. Take this out, still pretty wet. All right, we're going to switch to make this vent come out. All right, we got a good flow. I'll put this on. Not sure how smoky it's going to get in here. All right, let's get it. Waited too long, gonna have to do it again. All right, guys, so that's going to conclude my video. So we got a nice little button of gold. I'm clearly a little out of practice here, especially with melting the gold. I'm not really sure what happened. It's just going to take me a little while to get back in the swing of things here. So I'm going to get a weight on it. All right, it's looking like 2.36 grams of pure gold. Now, this is probably about 99% pure gold. I know there's some extra steps I could have taken with washing and rinsing it. And normally I would even do 2 aqua regia treatments on it. But however, this is going to go in whenever I refine my carat scrap. And so I'm going to encort this with silver and it's going to get completely refined again. So that's why I didn't take all the extra steps. All right, so 2.36 grams. So as I said in the beginning, all right, so we started off with the E-scrap was going to be 13.25%. So how we get that is you just divide it by 100. And really the easiest way to do this is you can just move the decimal over 2 spots. All right, and then after that, we're going to multiply it by 2.36. And that's going to be how much percent of this was from our E-scrap. So 0.3 3/10 of a gram is what we got from the E-scrap. So as you can see, it's not all that much gold. So you probably ask, is it worth it? Well, if you get computers like that and you try to do it right then and there, it's probably not. You're going to burn up in the cost of acid and all the other chemicals to do it. So if you're going to do something like this, the best suggestion I could give to you is to save it and collect it. So I have tubs of computer scrap that I've collected, and I've got a big bin of CPUs that I'm getting ready to do too. So if you collect it and build it up over time, so if I refine that in 2 years, who knows what the price of gold is going to be then. As you know by now, since I've started even buying those, the price of gold has just skyrocketed. So the best advice I can give to you, it's probably going to be more profitable, beneficial to you if you just save your scrap and do it once you get a whole lot of it. But unless you can get electronic scrap basically free or for almost nothing, then I wouldn't suggest paying money for it because you're just going to end up in the hole pretty quick. But either way, I just wanted to demonstrate where the gold is in electronics and everything and just show you how to get the gold out of it. So, all right, hope you enjoyed the video. Thanks for watching.